with the same restless thoughts, the same dreams, and the same quiet hopes that young people across all ages have felt. And perhaps it's comforting to know, even in an empire of power and spectacle, life could also be soft, simple, and beautifully human. You stretch awake on a simple, straw-filled mattress. Your tunic hangs from a hook on the wall, plain and practical. For a moment, the shock makes you inhale sharply, and then, calm, a new day begins. If your family is humble, breakfast might be nothing more than bread dipped in watered wine, or a handful of figs if the season has been kind. Your mother or a caretaker, if she works outside, or if your family can afford a servant, hands you your bag of wax tablets and a stylus. If you're a boy, you head quickly toward school. The rustle of parchment, the lull of repeated poetry, the comforting familiarity of the same students sitting around you each day, some sleepy, some eager, some secretly carving simple drawings into the edges of their tablets when the teacher isn't looking. And yet, even as a teenager, you are always aware of Rome's greatness. but you also hear gossip, jokes, and the small, comforting chatter of everyday life. In ancient Rome, being a teenager wasn't so different from being one today. You wondered about your future. You dreamed of adventures. You sometimes felt small and sometimes felt unstoppable. You had responsibilities, expectations, and fleeting moments where the world felt completely your own. But tonight, in the warmth of this quiet story, it feels alive again, alive, and peacefully fading into sleep. Courtly love and adultery in the Middle Ages sleep story as the gentle fire continues its soft crackling beside you. Let your mind drift once more, this time not to the sun-warmed streets of ancient Rome, but to a world wrapped in mist, cloaked in towering stone castles, and softened by tapestries that ripple like frozen stories on the walls. Tonight, you are wandering through the a time where chivalry shaped behavior and love itself was woven into rules, codes, and whispered secrets. Close your eyes for a moment, take a slow breath, imagine riding along a narrow forest path, hooves pressing softly into moss-covered earth. The air is crisp and cool, carrying the faint scent of pine and distant woods. In the distance, you hear a latit's notes drifting like gentle raindrops through the morning fog. You have stepped into the world of courtly love Unlike modern romance, courtly love was not a thing of comfort or ease. It was a dance, a ritual, a game of longing. It was tenderness wrapped in tension, desire swallowed by rules. In the Middle Ages, love was often the domain of poetry rather than reality, an escape for those whose real lives were shaped by duty, arranged marriages, and social expectations. Imagine a castle rising before you, walls tall and grey, banners rippling in slow waves atop its towers. Inside its halls, nobles gather not for battle but for music and conversation. A troubadour sits by the great hearth, humming the opening lines of a new ballad, while knights and ladies sit nearby, listening with dreamy eyes. The idea of courtly love was simple yet complicated. A knight devotes himself to a noble lady, often one he cannot marry. He admires her from afar, places her favor on his arm in tournaments, and sees in her the embodiment of beauty and virtue. She, in turn, offers him inspiration, her smile, her words, her presence, but rarely, very rarely, anything more. Love was an art, not a possession, and yet, beneath the polished manners and poetic phrases, there was an undeniable undercurrent of longing silent glances exchanged across banquet halls, hands brushing for a heartbeat longer than necessary, hopes hidden beneath layers of etiquette. The fire beside you crackles softly, filling the silence with warmth, as though echoing the warmth brewing under those medieval interactions. Picture a noble lady walking through the garden of a castle at dusk. Her gown rustles as she moves, lantern light playing along embroidered edges. She pauses beside a rosebush, fingertips brushing a blossom just beginning to open. Behind her, almost silently, a knight approaches. Not too close, he must keep a respectful distance, but close enough that she can feel his presence. Their conversation is soft. "How fares your family, my lady?" he asks, though he already knows well. "Sir Rowan," she replies, her voice barely above a whisper. Their words are simple, but the quiet between them is full. This moment, brief, delicate, is a kind of love that medieval poets would write about, turning the smallest gesture into a scene of aching beauty. But courtly love had a darker side to her, shadow that hid behind the glow of chivalry. You see, marriage in the Middle Ages was rarely about love. It was about alliances, land, and family reputation. Adultery, whispered about in corners, carried risks that could stretch across entire kingdoms. A simple rumor could sink reputations, ignite rivalries, or even end lives. And yet, despite the danger, forbidden love stories thrived. They were written in poetry, sung in songs, and woven into legends. People dreamed more boldly. Take a moment to imagine a medieval festival beneath moonlit skies. Lanterns hang from wooden beams, their glow casting warm halos across the faces of dancers spinning in soft circles. The scent of roasted chestnuts floats through the air, mingling with bursts of laughter. Amid the crowd, two people who should not be together meet for just a moment. A glance, a secret smile, a shared breath in a world where such closeness is not allowed. Their love is not physical, it exists mostly in the mind, in the heart, in stolen words rather than stolen nights. Still, the intensity can feel overwhelming, like a tightly wound string, ready to snap. Courtly love, for many, was less about desire and more about escape. Escape from rigid expectations. Escape from arranged marriages. Escape from the monotony of daily responsibilities. It was love painted with imagination, softened by distance, purified by impossibility. A cloak thrown over a lady's shoulders at midnight. As you listen to the fire continue its rhythmic crackle, let yourself drift deeper into this world, where torches flicker against stone walls, where songs echo softly through castle corridors, and where love is both a promise and a peril. A world where passion is wrapped in rules, where affection is shown through poetry, where longing itself becomes a form of devotion. Imagine now a final scene: soft rain tapping against a castle window. She holds a letter pressed to her chest, the ink still fresh. And sometimes, in the quiet, dreaming is enough. And as the last embers of our imaginary medieval fire soften into a warm glow, you may find your own breath slowing, mind quieting, body relaxing. History, after all, is not only battles and dates, it is also the soft, small human moments that echo across centuries. The fire beside you settles into a soft, steady rhythm, now each ember glowing like a tiny memory. We step gently into another world, another era. A narrow cobblestone street, the air cool and carrying the faint scent of coal smoke. Take a slow breath. A kettle steams gently, releasing a faint herbal scent. Doctors in this era were beginning to understand the body in ways previous centuries never had. New discoveries were appearing almost every year: anesthesia, early antiseptics, vaccines, germ theory. But the path to progress was not smooth or simple. Imagine standing beside a London physician as he prepares for surgery. Before anesthesia became common, operations had to be completed as quickly as humanly possible, sometimes in under a minute. Surgeons were celebrated not for precision, but for speed, their hands racing against a patient's ability to endure pain. And the hospitals, they were often overcrowded, dim, and poorly ventilated. Before germ theory became widely accepted, cleanliness depended on personal habit rather than medical understanding. A surgeon might perform multiple operations in the same blood-stained coat, believing that washing it would remove the noble crust that proved his experience. It was a time when medicine was both dangerous and full of possibility. Now imagine another side of Victorian life: the moral expectations. Society was rigid, almost fragile, held together by rules about behavior, appearance, family duty, and social rank. To be proper was everything. People measured actions carefully, spoke with restraint, and kept secrets quietly tucked beneath layers of etiquette. It created a strange tension. Medical knowledge was expanding rapidly. Illnesses were described with vague euphemisms, as if naming them directly might cause offense. The family doctor arrives, politely removing his hat, and speaks in soft tones about a touch of winter weakness, even though he suspects something far more serious. People lived between what they felt and what they were allowed to say. Imagine hearing the clink of metal instruments in the lab of Joseph Lister, who introduced antiseptic surgery. Strict manners and bold innovation. Fear and hope. Let yourself drift deeper into this world where lamplight glows through frosted windows and the quiet hum of invention fills the night. His boots are muddy, his coat heavy with London fog. He steps inside his modest home, where a fire is slowly burning. Outside, the city sleeps fitfully, dreams drifting through chimney smoke. Medicine in this era was not just a professionate, was often a calling, one pursued with patience and persistence, even when the answers were unclear. A nurse in a white apron tidies the ward, placing cool cloths on patients' foreheads. The doctor writes his notes with a fountain pen, listening to the soft rustling of sheets and murmurs of sleep. Outside, the city begins to wake. Horses clip-clop on wet streets, shopkeepers prepare their stalls, and the fog slowly lifts above the river. And somewhere in all of this quiet movement, progress is happening slowly, imperfectly, but steadily. The Victorian world teaches us something simple and comforting. Even in confusion and uncertainty, people keep trying. They keep learning. They keep moving forward, even when the path is dim. As the fire beside you glows warmly, you may feel your breath deepen, your thoughts soften, and your body relax. Let the gentle rhythm of the past guide you into rest, for even the most complex moments in history carry a softness when seen through the lens of storytelling. The fire beside you crackles softly now, the glow deepening into warm amber. As you let that calm sound settle in your mind, we drift further back, much further into a world shaped by marble columns, sunlit hills, and the gentle rustling of olive trees. Tonight, we step into ancient Macedonia, a land where mountains guarded quiet valleys and kings ruled from stone palaces overlooking the Aegean Sea. Here, in the golden light of history, a teenage boy is growing into someone the world will later call great. But for now, he is simply Alexander, a prince standing at the edge of extraordinary destiny. Take a slow, easy breath. Let your shoulders soften as we travel to the city of Pella, where Alexander spent his youth. Imagine walking through the palace courtyard in early morning. The sky is pale blue, the air cool with the scent of wild herbs. Footsteps echo lightly across mosaic floors. Servants carry water jars. Horses stamp their hooves in the distance. And in the center of this peaceful scene stands a young boy with thoughtful eyes, curious, restless, and already dreaming of worlds far beyond the palace walls. Alexander was not like other children. He was intense, eager, and endlessly curious. Instead of toys, he preferred stories of heroes and distant kingdoms. When other boys played, he often watched the horizon, wondering what lay beyond the next mountain range. It is said that his mother, Olympias, whispered to him stories about gods and destiny, telling him he was descended from Achilles. His father, King Philip II, saw something fierce and bright in him, something that could shape empires. But at this point in his life, Alexander is still a teenager, wandering through hallways of polished stone, discovering who he is. Now imagine him at 13, sitting under the shade of an ancient plane tree. A man approaches older, thoughtful, carrying scrolls instead of swords. This man is Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers in history. He has come to teach the prince. Aristotle's voice is gentle, almost melodic. He teaches Alexander about plants, animals, astronomy, poetry, ethics, and the workings of the human mind. He teaches him that knowledge itself is a kind of power, quiet but strong. Picture the two of them walking through the Macedonian hills, sunlight painting the grass in soft gold. Aristotle points out rare flowers, explains the stars, speaks about distant lands. Alexander listens with absolute focus, absorbing everything. These lessons shape him. They give him a mind that sees connections others miss, a curiosity that never fades, and a belief that the world is vast and full of mysteries waiting to be explored. Now, let the fire's warmth draw you deeper into the story. In the afternoons, Alexander trains with the royal companions. His movements are swift and balanced. He learns how to ride, how to wield a spear, how to lead. But unlike many warriors, he doesn't fight with rage. He fights with purpose, with strategy, with calm calculation. And then there is Bucephalus. Imagine a great black horse, powerful and wild, refusing to let anyone come near. The palace courtyard is filled with murmurs and worried glances. Even King Philip shakes his head. This horse seems impossible to tame. But Alexander watches carefully. He notices the horse is frightened of its own shadow, so he does something unexpected. He turns the horse toward the sun, so the shadows fall behind them. With gentle hands, calm breath, and unshakable confidence, he mounts Bucephalus. The courtyard falls silent. For a moment, it feels as if boy and horse understand each other completely. His father, moved by what he sees, whispers, "Find yourself a kingdom equal to yourself, my son. Macedonia is too small for you." But Alexander doesn't understand the full meaning of those words yet. He is still just a boy, learning, growing, dreaming. Let the fires crackle, soften your thoughts. Let the story slow your heartbeat. We drift deeper now into Alexander's teenage years. He travels with his father during military campaigns, not to fight, but to observe. He studies how armies move, how terrain shapes battle, how morale rises and falls. He asks endless questions. He watches leaders argue over tactics, watches soldiers build campfires under starlit skies, watches the world unfold like a map no one has fully drawn. Each journey expands his view. Each new land whispers possibilities. Alexander begins to understand that borders are only temporary lines drawn by temporary kings. And in quiet moments alone, in his tent or sitting beside a river, he imagines the world not as a collection of separate nations, but as one vast connected tapestry. He dreams of exploring it all. But teenage years are not only filled with victories and ambition. There are shadows, too, moments of doubt, fear, and longing. Alexander sometimes feels caught between two powerful forces, his father's fierce expectations and his mother's mystical visions. Between war and philosophy, between discipline and imagination. He wonders who he will become. He wonders whether greatness is a gift or a burden. He wonders whether destiny is something he can shape or something already written. As night falls over Pella, he walks along the palace balcony, looking at the stars Aristotle taught him to name. The torches flicker, casting gentle golden light across the courtyard. The world is quiet, and Alexander, still so young, stands on the edge of a future he cannot yet see. You can picture him resting one hand on the cool stone railing, the wind lifting his hair, the moon shimmering on the rooftops below. For a moment, he is not a prince, not a future king, not a legendary conqueror. He is simply a teenager, filled with dreams too large for his world. And yet, the world will one day bend to those dreams. Let the rhythm of the fire guide you now, soft and steady. Let your breath slow, your mind drift gently. This story, like all stories, reminds us that even the greatest figures in history were once young and sure, curious, full of questions. They grew not through certainty, but through learning. Not through perfection, but through patience. Not through destiny alone, but through the quiet courage to keep going. And so, in this final scene, imagine Alexander falling asleep in his chamber, lamplight fading, scrolls scattered around him, dreams full of distant lands he has yet to explore. The world outside rests in silence. The future waits, quietly unfolding.